In the dusty heart of Brookdale, trouble had a name, and today, it was Kwame. Kwame wasn't always crooked. He used to run with his best friend, Darnell, hustling sneakers and fixing bikes for cash. But lately, he'd been chasing fast money and shady deals. The streets whispered his name like a warning. One evening, Kwame spotted old Mr. Jenkins leaving the corner store. The man was slow, his limp more pronounced than usual. But what caught Kwame's eye wasn't his walk. It was the thick envelope he clutched. Rent money. Everyone knew Mr. Jenkins had just cashed his check. Kwame followed quietly. Just before the alley near Carter's barbershop, he made his move. A quick shove, a snatch, and he was gone. Mr. Jenkins hit the pavement hard. The next day, sirens sang through the block. Word spread. Mr. Jenkins was in the hospital, and someone had snatched his rent money. But here's where it got dirty. Kwame, knowing heat would come down on him eventually, decided to flip the script. "Yo, I saw Darnell running from the alley last night," he told the cops. "He was acting real off. You might wanna check his place." Darnell? The same dude who once gave Kwame a place to crash? The one who bailed him out when he got pinched for boosting headphones? Police showed up at Darnell's house like a storm. They found a few bills that Kwame had planted earlier, just enough to raise suspicion. Darnell tried to explain, but the system didn't care. He was cuffed and thrown into a cell while Kwame walked free, counting stolen bills and wearing a smirk like a badge of honor. But karma has a long memory, and the streets? They don't forget betrayal. Weeks passed. Kwame was riding high, new shoes, fresh fit, and a pocket full of stolen rent. He hit every dice game, bragged at every corner, and acted like he was untouchable. But the thing about the streets is, even concrete cracks under pressure, and so do lies. Word started to spread. A kid from around the way, little Reggie, said he saw someone run from the alley that night, but it wasn't Darnell. "I know what I saw," Reggie told his cousin, who told his older brother, who told everybody. And just like that, whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into questions. Darnell's cousin Malik, quiet, but always watching, started connecting dots. Kwame's sudden spending, his nervous laugh, the way he couldn't look anybody in the eye when they brought up Mr. Jenkins. Then came the day Malik cornered him outside the liquor store. "You ever think about how fast a lie burns when it's dry out here?" Malik asked, staring dead into Kwame's soul. Kwame laughed it off, but his hands shook. The street had already made up its mind. Snitch, snake, coward. That same night, someone threw a brick through Kwame's window. The next day, his own cousin stopped answering his calls. Even his favorite barber told him to take his business somewhere else. But the worst came when Mr. Jenkins got out the hospital. He couldn't walk right no more, but his mind was sharp. He asked to see Darnell, offering to testify that the guy who hit him was too tall to be Darnell, and moved different. Darnell's public defender filed a motion the same day. Meanwhile, Kwame got a knock on his door. It wasn't the cops. It was Malik. And he wasn't alone. "You took food out your own brother's mouth," Malik said. "Now you gonna make it right." They made Kwame write a letter, full confession, signed and dated. They turned it in, straight to Darnell's lawyer. Case fell apart, but Kwame's wasn't over. That letter made the news. His face was on the front page of the local paper under the headline, "False Accusation Uncovered in Assault Case." Kwame couldn't walk through his own block without feeling the heat of every eye, every whisper. He thought he could lie his way into easy money. Instead, he lied his way out of respect, friends, and the only home he ever had. Kwame tried to disappear. He moved to his aunt's cramped apartment on the south side, dyed his hair, and stayed off the block. But guilt sticks, and so does reputation. Even in a new neighborhood, folks looked at him sideways. Word travels faster than cars in the hood. Back in Brookdale, Darnell was free, but he wasn't the same. Jail leaves a mark, even if you're innocent. He kept his circle tight, barely spoke, and turned cold overnight. He didn't say a word about Kwame, not to the cops, not to his people. But silence don't mean forgiveness. One night, Kwame sat alone in a rundown bar, nursing a warm beer he could barely afford. He stared at the TV, but his mind was on that alley, Mr. Jenkins hitting the ground, and Darnell getting dragged out in cuffs. A man slid into the seat across from him, hoodie up, no smile. It was Darnell. Kwame froze. For a minute, neither of them said anything. "You ever think about what you cost me?" Darnell asked, voice low and steady. Kwame opened his mouth to explain, to say he was sorry, but no words came out, just guilt. Darnell leaned in. "Don't apologize. That ain't what I came for." Kwame flinched. thinking maybe this was it, payback. But Darnell just dropped a folded note on the table and stood up. You owe more than me, he said. You owe Jenkins. You owe the block. You owe yourself. He walked out, disappearing into the night like a ghost. Kwame unfolded the note. Inside was an address and a name. Community Outreach Center. Mr. Jenkins. Kwame sat there for a long time. The next morning, he showed up, hoodie up, hands in his pockets, heart heavy. Mr. Jenkins was sitting outside on a plastic chair, watching pigeons. Boy, you finally showed your face, the old man said without even turning. Kwame nodded. I want to help, however I can. Mr. Jenkins gave a quiet laugh. Start by carrying these damn boxes inside. That was the beginning, not of forgiveness, but of work. Kwame scrubbed graffiti, handed out meals, cleaned bathrooms, and took whatever Mr. Jenkins threw at him. He didn't complain. He didn't talk back. He just worked. Because sometimes, rebuilding yourself starts with rebuilding what you broke. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a way back. Months passed. Kwame kept his head down. Every day after work, he walked 10 blocks to the outreach center. He swept floors, packed food boxes, helped kids with homework. Mr. Jenkins didn't say much, but he watched. Every time Kwame showed up, he nodded. Just once. That nod meant everything. Darnell never came by, but Kwame didn't expect him to. Some things take longer to heal than others. The neighborhood started noticing, though. People who once crossed the street when they saw Kwame now gave him the occasional "What's up?" The corner boys stopped whispering. Even the OGs started nodding again, cautiously. But the street don't ever let you forget. Redemption? It's expensive. And somebody always thinks you didn't pay enough. One night, Kwame was locking up the center when 2 dudes stepped out the alley. Faces covered, ice cold. You think you clean now? One said. Think we forgot? Kwame didn't run. Didn't even flinch. He just stared back. I ain't clean, he said. I'm just trying. They didn't care. One of them swung. Kwame ducked, but the second caught him in the ribs. He went down hard. Fists rained. Boots followed. When they finally left, Kwame lay bleeding, face swollen, vision blurred. Mr. Jenkins found him. He didn't say a word, just helped him up, one arm over his shoulder, walking slow, like a father carrying a broken son. You done now? He asked. Once they were inside, Kwame coughed. Not yet. The next day, bruised and limping, Kwame still showed up, didn't say a word about the beating, just kept working. That was the day everything changed. A little boy named Trey ran up, smiling. Mr. Kwame, you coming to career day, right? Kwame blinked. Career day? What I got to say? Trey shrugged. You changed. That's something, ain't it? And maybe it was. So he went, told his story, no filters, no lies, told them about the robbery, the betrayal, the cell Darnell sat in because of him, the pain he caused, and then he told them what came after. You're gonna mess up, he said to the room full of kids, but it's what you do after that mess that shows who you really are. When he finished, the room was quiet. Not everyone clapped, but some did, and at the back of the room, leaning against the wall, arms folded, stood Darnell. He didn't smile, but he nodded once, the same way Mr. Jenkins used to. That nod? That was everything. The nod from Darnell that day didn't erase the past, but it cracked the wall. From then on, Kwame wasn't just surviving, he was building. He started spending more time at the center, not just helping out, but planning, asking questions, learning how things worked, how grants got written, how programs got funded. Mr. Jenkins, seeing the fire in him, started putting more on his plate. You wanna make a difference. Jenkins said one day, then stop just mopping floors. Learn how to run this thing. So Kwame did. He started small, organizing coat drives, tutoring kids who couldn't sit still, setting up late-night basketball runs to keep teens off corners. He talked to businesses. He knocked on doors. Some slammed in his face. Some didn't. Meanwhile, Darnell stayed distant. He'd show up sometimes, leaning in a doorway, watching. Kwame never pushed. He just kept showing up, day after day. No shortcuts, no credit seeking. Then one night, something big happened. A 15-year-old kid named Mello got locked up, busted with a piece. Same alley where Kwame once jumped Jenkins. Mello was quiet, smart, but angry. Everyone thought he was a lost cause, except Kwame. He went to see Mello, sat behind the glass, eyes steady. You know who I am? He asked. Yeah. Mello said. You the dude who snitched on your boy. Kwame didn't flinch. Yeah, I was. But I'm still here. And I'm trying to stop you from being me. He kept visiting, writing letters to the judge. He even convinced Darnell, quiet, Private Darnell, to write a statement. Told them Mello had potential. Told them he deserved a second chance. Mello got probation. And when he walked into the center for the first time, ice hard but curious, Kwame greeted him at the door. First time's always the hardest, he said. Let's get to work. That moment started something bigger. With Mr. Jenkins' blessing, Kwame opened a new wing at the center, the Second Start program, focused on giving young men caught in the system a real shot. JED help, job placement, therapy, mentorship. The streets started calling him something new. Not snitch, not thief. Now, they called him the one who turned it around. Even Darnell, one quiet Saturday, finally pulled Kwame aside. You did what I didn't think you would, he said. You made something out of it. I respect that. And that meant more than forgiveness. That was peace. Kwame's past never left him, but it stopped defining him. He still walked the same blocks, still saw the alley, still heard the whispers. But now, he walked tall. Because sometimes, the ones who fall the hardest are the ones who build something no one saw coming. The center was buzzing. Flyers all over town. Cameras pulling up. News crews asking questions. Kwame had landed his biggest win yet. A city grant worth $200,000 to expand the Second Start program. He was about to take things to the next level. New computers, night classes, paid internships for kids like Mello. But every blessing comes with a target, and not everyone in Brookdale wanted to see Kwame win. A week after the grant was announced, Kwame walked into the center to find everything flipped. Desks turned over, files dumped, computers gone, spray paint across the wall in red. A fraud can't fix nobody. He stood frozen. This wasn't just a break-in. It was a message. Later that night, his phone lit up. No caller ID he picked up. You made enemies when you stopped being one of us. The voice said. You forgot the rules. You ain't street no more. So now you fair game. Click. Kwame's heart beat heavy. He knew what this was. Someone from the past was circling back. And he had a damn good guess who. T-Rex. Kwame and T-Rex used to run together back in the wild days. Before Darnell. Before Mr. Jenkins. Before the outreach center. T-Rex had stayed dirty. Gotten deeper into the game. Now he ran a small crew slinging pills and fear from the east side. And word was, T-Rex had tried to apply for that same grant. Got denied. Now Kwame had it. And Rex? Rex wanted war. Kwame didn't run to the police. He ran to the people. He gathered Mello, a few of the older kids, and even Darnell, told them what was happening. We built this, he said. And I'll be damned if we let someone burn it down. Darnell nodded, stepped forward. So what's the play? Kwame smiled. We play chess, not checkers. First move? Security cameras. Upgraded. Wired direct to the cloud. Second? Paper trail on every cent of the grant. Kwame made it all public. Full transparency. Shut down the rumor mill before it could start. But the real heat came a week later. When T-Rex showed up himself, middle of the afternoon, walked right into the center, chain heavy, eyes darker than night. I see you, boy, Rex said. Clean shirt, big words, but I know who you really are. Kwame stepped forward. Calm, then you know I'm not scared. You should be. Street don't love traitors. Kwame leaned in. Street don't love leeches either. I'm building something. You tearing down your own block. T-Rex smiled. Slow. Crooked. We'll see how long it stands. He left, but the line had been drawn, and Kwame knew it. This wasn't just about words anymore. It was about legacy, power, and blood. That night, someone fired 3 shots into the outreach center's front window. No one was hit, but the smoke in the air, it meant something bigger was coming. The glass was still on the floor when Kwame came back the next morning. Sunlight poured through the bullet holes in the front window like little warnings from God. Mello sat outside on the curb, hoodie up, jaw clenched. They really shot at us, Dottie said, voice shaking just enough to show he wasn't made of steel yet. Yeah, Kwame said. That's what cowards do when they can't win straight up. He looked over his shoulder at the shattered window, at the flyers that had once covered the wall, now scattered across the floor like broken promises. Something in him shifted. He wasn't gonna beg for peace anymore. He was gonna take it. Kwame hit the city offices, took every receipt, every photo of the damage, every recorded threat. and filed a formal report, but not to the cops, to the city council, to the people who signed off on the grant, told them the truth. I'm being targeted for doing what your money paid me to do. If this program gets shut down, the city's blood is on its hands. They listened, and behind the scenes, they started applying pressure, quiet pressure, the kind that makes block captains uncomfortable and makes dealers duck. But Kwame wasn't done. He went to Rico. Rico was T-Rex's old muscle, retired now, running a barber shop, staying low. Kwame slid in his chair, cape around his neck, and spoke straight. I ain't asking you to snitch. I'm asking you to tell me how to cut off the oxygen before Rex burns everything down. Rico didn't flinch. You want him gone. I want him irrelevant. Rico gave a slow nod. Then you gotta hit him where it hurts. Money and fear. Kwame hosted the biggest event the Outreach Center had ever seen. Food trucks, DJs, games for the kids, press, cameras, and most importantly, a job fair. He partnered with 3 local businesses and 1 construction firm that owed him a favor. Put 20 teenagers into paid training programs that same day. T-Rex tried to make noise, tried to scare people from showing up, but the cameras were on, the community was out, people weren't buying what Rex was selling anymore. And then, the final nail. Kwame handed the mayor's office a thick folder, proof of how T-Rex had been laundering money through a fake community org, an old hustle, but this time Kwame had the paperwork to prove it. Anonymous, of course. Within a week, the feds were sniffing around Rex's crew. One of his own boys flipped. Charges started stacking. Phones got tapped. And just like that, Rex vanished. No more bullets. No more calls. Just silence. A month later, Mello walked into the center with a fresh haircut, new boots, and his first paycheck in his hand. Yo, he said. You really did it. Kwame smiled. Nah, we did it. Across the street, Darnell watched from a distance, arms folded, pride buried under that hard face. Inside, Mr. Jenkins cleaned his glasses and muttered, "Took him long enough." And for the first time in a long time, Brookdale felt like a place that might just make it. The knock on the door. It was Tuesday morning when Agent Rivera stepped into the Outreach Center. Her badge gleamed. Her questions did not. "I'm investigating a tip about misused grant funds," she said, scanning the room. "Mind walking me through your expenditures, Mr. Bryant?" Kwame felt the room tighten. Every receipt, every photo, every signed note he'd kept was suddenly ammunition in someone else's war. He led Rivera to his office, piled high with files. "I've got nothing to hide," he said. But as she thumbed through the paperwork, he realized how close to the edge they'd all been. If even one signature looked off, the whole program could collapse. Mello's temptation. Meanwhile, out on the street corner, Mello faced his own crossroads. A slick new crew had set up shop 3 blocks over, offering him easy money for security work. They dangled cash, real cash, in crisp 20s. All he had to do was watch a car at night. He nearly said yes. On his way back to the center, Mello saw Quim's battered Camaro parked by the window, paperwork strewn across the dash from Rivera's visit. He thought about those 20s. He thought about feeding his little sister next week. He thought about Quim's not at career day. He shook his head and grabbed his bag. He would talk to Kwame first. Lines in the sand. That evening, Kwame and Mello sat under a flickering street lamp outside the center. Rivera's questions still hovered between them. "You sure you don't need more help here?" Mello asked, voice low. "'Cause I could." Kwame cut him off gently. "Don't start down that road. Let me sort this first. You focus on school and work study." But Mello's eyes were troubled. "You'd cover me." Kwame laid a hand on his shoulder. "Always. But you gotta trust me. And trust yourself." The game tightens. By midnight, Rivera had taken copies of every bank statement and grant proposal. She left with a warning. Any irregularity would trigger an immediate audit and criminal charges. Kwame stood in the empty hall, fluorescent lights humming overhead. One wrong move, and everything he'd built, from Mr. Jenkins' first box of donated food to the Second Start program's new wing, could vanish. Outside, somewhere in Brookdale, T-Rex watched from the shadows, microphone hidden, phone recording. He had everything he needed to bring the center down. A single misstep from Kwame, a single yes from Mello. To be continued. The grant office clock ticked past midnight. Mello wrestled with his phone. Accept or delete the recruiter's message? Kwame stared at the hollowed-out center, knowing the next move would decide not just their fate, but the soul of Brookdale itself. Would Kwame clear his name and pull Mello back from the brink? Or would the ghosts of the street finally claim their due? The streets were listening, and they were still watching. In the dusty